so you need to make sure that this one doesn't spike past 94, alright?
Yes, sir.
Very good. Well, that's the mechanical element of the role covered. Any questions so far?
How often do we check their conditions? You know, to check that they're still serving?
They're quite low maintenance if I'm honest with you. But due to the amount of pods that we store here, we've had to develop routes to follow to cover them all with some degree of regularity. If we stick to the routes, each pod should be monitored twice weekly. They're checked more often when it gets closer to their release. Speaking of, what's the time?
It's 15:20.
Alrighty then, let's head over to 7.1-9.0.2. They're due for release at 15:30. That will be the next part of your training.
I look forward to it.
So this is 7.1-9.0.2. Lewis C. Kelly, convicted armed robber, serving 38 cycles, about to finish their 8th. Now, this will be your first experience with a release, and I need you to just watch what I do and pay attention to what I say. They're often confused, but try not to humanise them. These people are criminals serving a life sentence. That's all. And here we go. Welcome back, Inmate 7.1-9.0.2. How are you feeling?
What? Where am I?
You have just completed your 8th cycle of your sentence. A cycle of 57 years. Congratulations.
8th? That was only my 8th? How many do I have left? I can't keep doing this.
30.
30? No.
Inmate 7.1-9.0.2, it is my duty to inform you that during this brief interaction, we have successfully analysed your physical and mental well-being. You have stabilised to acceptable levels and it is safe for you to begin your next life sentence cycle. Please prepare yourself for re-entry into the sentence
Please,
scape.
give me more time here. I don't want to go back, please.
Your sentence begins now.
No!
So, how did you think that went? What did I do and what did I say to the inmate during that interaction?
Well, you let the inmate know what cycle they had completed. You established their well-being through calm conversation. You prepared the inmate for re-entry and started their new sentence shortly after.
Okay, but what else did I do, especially towards the end? What did the inmate want me to do?
Wanted you to give them more time? Before they went back under?
Yep, and did I?
No. And he seemed upset by that.
Upset? Is that sympathy I can sense? There's no need for that in a place like this. What did I tell you before?
That they're criminals serving a sentence.
Yes. There's no point feeling sorry for these people. They're inmates. They're here for a reason, and that reason being that they're not very good people. These are criminals, and they are the disease that infects our society. It's not controversial to say that what's happening to them inside the sentence scape is exactly what they deserve.
Is it, sir?
What do you mean, is it?
Well, isn't the punishment that is provided here worse than the crime they were originally sentenced for?
I honestly think it's fair. Take inmate 71-902 for example. He's an armed robber and a drug addict. He broke into a home and attempted to steal what he thought he might be able to sell on for more drugs. However, being the smart guy that he was, he didn't decide to simply flee or turn himself in when he was caught, but instead to attack and kill the family in a desperate attempt to cover his tracks. He of course failed at even that, and the paramedics were able to save the youngest daughter and treat her to the point where she was fit enough to identify him in a lineup. Now, before this technology, the guy would have just served his life sentence in some crowded prison, having 3 meals a day, a roof over his head, and he would never have learned or understood the suffering and pain he'd inflicted on the family that he so carelessly slaughtered. But today though, With the pods and the sentencescape, and with the world the way it is now, he has no choice but to understand that pain. To scar the way they've been scarred, to hurt the way they've been hurt. The sentencescape taps you into a life simulation, but to mirror an ordinary life, it'll give you a family, a job, some hardships, some peaks and valleys. And then, when you're comfortable and safe, and you almost forgot that it's a simulation, bam. Tragedy, the crime that you had committed in the real world strikes your home, your family. Maybe you'll die protecting them, or maybe you won't. That armed robber turned murderer, he will tear your life to pieces. You'll grieve and you'll hurt and you'll live your life never being able to return the favour to the one that did this. And after so many years alone and angry, you'll die. And that cycle will complete. You'll wake up here briefly and then, bam, back under again for another cycle of trauma and heartbreak. It's the best thing to ever happen to these monsters. By the time they've served their sentences, they will fully understand the effect that their crimes have had on the lives of those they've ruined, and they will actually be rehabilitated. By trauma, but rehabilitated nonetheless.
Don't you think that's a little overboard?
Why is it overboard?
If it was like it used to be, then the guy would have served, 35 to 40 years in a cell? Maybe actual life in prison before dying? That's normal. What we're doing here is giving them multiple lifespans, multiple births and deaths spanning hundreds of years. If this guy has been averaging 50 years per cycle, then he's already served and lived 400 years in total. And he's still got another 30 to go? That's an extra 1,500 years of life and death again. That's not a prison sentence. What that is hell itself. A never-ending cycle of pain and suffering without an end.
Would you rather have them serve their sentence out here, and then return to the streets to do it all over again without knowing the pain of others?
I don't know. But maybe the way that the cycles work, it shouldn't be as harsh as they are now. I've watched the news. I've seen the courts. It feels like to me that they just pick a number of cycles out of thin air, and when calculated to real-world years, I don't know, 20 cycles equals 20 years. I know it isn't, but if it was like that, the courts go, yeah, that sounds like the right amount of time for the crime committed. But it isn't, just like I told you. This Lewis guy, this inmate, he's got at least another 1,500 years of suffering before he's allowed out into the real world. What kind of mess do you think he'll be in then, having lived through so much sorrow? It doesn't equate.
But his sorrow is fictional. His simulation family, they aren't real. It ain't real loss.
It won't be to him. Can I take this one?
Do you know what to press on the console?
No, but I would like to do the interaction. If you don't mind doing the console?
Okay. Lead the way, trainee. Are you ready?
Send her back. Welcome back, Inmate 5.2-5.7.1.
Was I dreaming?
No, Inmate. That was not a dream, but a cycle. Your fourth one, to be exact. 27 years served per cycle.
But it felt so real. How do I keep forgetting?
It's the strange effect that the sentencescape has. After so much time within the simulation, you begin to believe that it was that life that was real, forgetting the details about the world out here. It's fairly common within those serving time here. Can I ask you a question, inmate?
Okay. Yeah.
How many years do you think you have lived in total, inmate? If we were to add all of the time you've served so far, how many years would you say it's been?
I don't know. I don't remember. All I can remember is my daughter. My daughter. Where's my daughter?
That's okay. Do you remember your crime, inmate?
Wait, what are you doing?
Where is my daughter?
Inmate, the daughter you are referring to, all of the daughters you referred to after releases, they are not real. They are fictitious, simulations of children. Do you understand?
Yes, but no. The pain, it felt so real.
Inmate, I understand. Do you remember your crime, inmate?
Yes, I do.
Please, tell me your crime.
What are you doing?
I am guilty of the crime of manslaughter. I drove someone I barely knew into committing suicide.
How did the crime make you feel?
I was ashamed, but that was all.
Did you ever see the family of the person you drove to kill themselves?
Only in court. They looked broken.
Okay, inmate. Now, what happened to your daughter?
Oh my god. I could see her. She was on the silver table in the morgue. Oh my god, she's dead. Oh my god, she's dead.
Did they tell you how she died?
I don't remember.
Their cause of death was and will always be suicide. Inmate, someone drove your daughter to suicide. Does this sound familiar?
I don't see the point in this.
Hold on, sir. Inmate,
Yes.
are you aware that you have currently served a total of 108 years of your sentence, losing 4 daughters to this crime? Do you think you now understand the pain of the real mother of the woman you drove to suicide out here in the real world?
Yes, I understand
Are
now.
you aware of how many cycles you have left to serve?
No.
You have 21 remaining. That's a total of 567 years left for you.
No, I mean, I can't. I learned my lesson. I understand now. I understand.
During this brief interaction, we have successfully analyzed your physical and mental well-being. You have stabilized to acceptable levels, and it is safe for you to begin your next life sentence cycle. Please prepare yourself for re-entry into the sentence-scape.
No. Please set me free. I don't want to go back yet. Please. I learned my lesson, please.
Your sentence begins now. Sir, please start the sentence.
Please, no, please.
Well, that went well.
Do you see my point? She has completed only 4 of her 25 cycles and already knows the suffering and has learned her lesson. What is the point of the other cycles? Has she not already served her sentence by the design of this tech? It doesn't matter. I am just wasting my breath. What else do I need to learn?
Besides when to just shut up and do your job.
Yes, besides that.
I need to show you the console commands. After that, you're done. It's not that I don't agree with you, by the way. But if it's the decision of the courts, who are we to argue? Now come on. We'll walk the route and I'll do the talking for the next few, alright?
Yes, sir.